You ever walk down your street and wonder, who's actually in charge of all this? The park, the streetlights, the whole shebang? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the government that's right in your backyard. We're breaking down the local power structure of Montevideo so you can know exactly who does what in your city.
So let me ask you straight up, do you know who's responsible for the parks, the streets, the lights right there in your neighborhood? Hey, if you're not sure, you are definitely not alone. But stick with us, because by the end of this explainer, you'll know exactly who to talk to. Okay, so before we jump into all the different titles and departments, we've got to start at the very beginning. We have to talk about the why. Because this entire system, it's all built on a foundation of rights that are guaranteed to every single person.
And this quote from the Constitution, it really sets the stage for everything. It says, "All persons are equal before the law, recognizing no other distinction between them than that of talents or virtues." That one sentence, that's the core principle. Everything else we're about to talk about flows directly from that idea.
So, to make sure that principle of equality is more than just words, the Constitution lays out some fundamental rights. We're talking about the protection of your life, your honor, and your liberty, security in your work and your property, the right to petition any authority, the right to a dignified home, and even the protection of the environment. The government's job, really, at every single level, is to protect and fulfill these rights for you.
All right, so keeping those rights in mind, let's zoom out a bit and look at the first layer of local government, the departmental level. This is the big picture view for the whole city of Montevideo.
Now, at this level, power is split into two main branches, which is super important. On one side, you've got the intendant, who you can think of as the mayor. They have the executive power. This is kind of the get things done branch. And on the other side, you have the junta departmental. They hold the legislative power. They're the lawmaking and watching branch. This whole separation is absolutely crucial for keeping everything in balance.
So let's zoom in on the intendente. A good way to think about this role is like the CEO of Montevideo's government. They're the chief executive, and they have some big responsibilities, like proposing the citywide budget and acting as the official face of the entire department.
So, who keeps the intendente in check? Right, that's where the junta departamental comes in. This is basically the city's legislature. It's like a local parliament. They're the ones who have to approve the budget, they can demand information to make sure everything's above board, and they create the local rules and ordinances that we all live by.
Okay, so that's the big picture. But you know what? Government gets even more local. Let's dive into the municipal level. This is the government that's literally right there in your neighborhood.
So the official term is a municipio, which the law calls a third level of government and administration. But what does that really mean? In simple terms, this level was created for one big reason: to decentralize power. The whole idea is to bring decision-making and actual services way closer to you, the residents.
So just how local are we talking here? Well, Montevideo's divided into 8. That's right, 8 of these municipios. Each one covers a specific territory, which means every single part of the city has its own dedicated local government.
So, what do these municipios actually do? This is where government really connects with your day-to-day life. They're the ones who handle the upkeep of your neighborhood parks and squares. They take care of the streetlights. They manage the street sweeping and clearing out storm drains. And they look after the trees on public streets. These are the real, tangible services that make a neighborhood feel like a community.
Okay, so who's running the show at this level? Well, each municipio has an alcalde, which is like a municipal mayor. They're the ones directing the day-to-day work. But, and this is important, they don't act alone. They work alongside the concejales or councilors. These folks participate, they vote on decisions, and they provide that crucial oversight. It's all about local leadership working with local accountability.
All right, we've covered the whole structure, from the big picture all the way down to the local level. But let's be real, a government is nothing without its people. So now, we're going to talk about the most important part of all, your role and how you can get directly involved. You know, one of the most powerful tools you have is something called the Citizen Initiative, and it's actually a pretty straightforward 3-step process. Step 1, you gather signatures from 15% of the registered citizens in your area for an issue that you really care about. Step 2, you take that signed initiative and present it to the departmental board. And finally, step 3, the electoral court validates all those signatures and boom! Just like that, you've officially kicked off a democratic process right from the ground up.
And hey, if jumping into a full-blown initiative feels like a lot, don't worry. There are other awesome ways to get involved. You can join your local Consejo Vecinal or neighborhood council and act as an advisor to the government.
You can also just show up to the annual public meetings where your municipio reports on what they've done and what they're planning. And never ever forget that you have a fundamental right to petition any authority on pretty much any matter. Your voice has so many different ways to be heard. See, at the end of the day, understanding how the system works is the absolute first step to being able to participate in it. The structure is there, the channels are open, so really the only question left is the one you see right here. Now that you know, how are you going to participate?